Warning: this documentary is based on a real case. All information has been drawn from the verified investigations, official court records, law enforcement documents, and accredited news sources. Viewer discretion is advised.
Well, less than a month ago, we reported the release of Shawn Adkins, the only name.
December 27, 2010. Colorado City, Texas. A flat, quiet stretch of West Texas. Population 4,500. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone's name, schedule, and business. That afternoon, a 13-year-old girl told the man in the house she was leaving. She said she was heading to her father's. Then she walked out the front door. Her father never saw her. Not a call, not a text, not a knock on the door. In a town where she visited him every single day without fail. December 27th was the first day she did not come. The man who last saw her alive spent the next decade denying everything. He failed polygraph tests and walked out of them. His phone records contradicted his own story. He was arrested, indicted on 2 charges, and offered a 30-year plea deal. He turned it down, then walked out of jail a free man. Her father has never stopped fighting. 15 years later, the person responsible for the death of 13-year-old Hailey Dunn has still never faced a single day in a courtroom. This is not a case without answers. This is a case where the answers exist, and the system has not finished the job. This is the investigation into the death of Hailey Dunn, and it is far from over. Hailey Darlene Dunn was born on August 28, 1997, to Clinton and Billie Jean Dunn in Mitchell County, Texas. By the 8th grade, she had become one of the most recognizable faces at Colorado City Middle School. She was 5'1", brown hair with blonde streaks, hazel eyes. Her friend Catherine described her as crazy, funny, and someone who always knew exactly what she wanted. Her principal, Mark Merrill, said it simply: Hailey was a doer. She was a cheerleader, played volleyball, basketball, and softball, and played saxophone in the school band. Her father, Clint, described her as a tomboy who loved glittery things. Her mother, Billie Jean, said she never forgot Hailey's laugh. Her favorite color was purple. That detail will matter later. When Hailey was 10, her parents separated. She and her brother David moved to the 1800 block of Chestnut Street with Billie Jean and her boyfriend, Shawn Casey Adkins. Clint lived directly across the road. Hailey visited him every single day, before school, after practice, for dinner, without fail. On Christmas Day, 2010, her grandmother Connie Jones said Hailey was in excellent spirits, excited about a new iPod. She spent Christmas and Boxing Day with her father and returned to Chestnut Street on the evening of December 26th. That night, both Billie Jean and Shawn Adkins were home. Investigators would later confirm that both admitted to using narcotics that night. That admission becomes significant when you consider that the official indictment would eventually allege the killing occurred on December 26th, not December 27th. David left for a sleepover that evening. Hailey went to bed normally. The following morning, Billie Jean left for her 12-hour hospital shift before 6. She checked on Hailey. Sound asleep. Adkins had already left for work. Hailey was home alone. She would have graduated high school in 2016. She would be 27 years old today. The last confirmed sighting of Hailey Dunn alive was sometime that afternoon on December 27, 2010. The only person who claims to know what happened is the same person whose account has never held up. Shawn left for work in Snyder, roughly 40 miles east of Colorado City, early that morning. He told investigators he arrived at 6, got into an argument with his boss, and was fired. He then claimed he drove to his mother's house in Big Spring, about 40 miles west of Colorado City, before returning home before 3 in the afternoon. Every part of that timeline was wrong. His employer told investigators there was no argument. Adkins arrived, bought a drink, handed in his uniform, and left voluntarily. When confronted,
our top story tonight, a miscarriage of justice. That's what the private investigator working with Hailey Dunn's father is calling the release of the prime murder suspect in her death. Earlier this week, our KCBD Investigates team reported that the murder charge against Shawn Adkins was dropped. He walked out of jail 2 days ago. Adkins was charged in the murder of 13-year-old Hailey Dunn after she disappeared from Colorado City in 2010. He was accused of killing her through blunt force trauma and dumping her body near Lake J.B. Thomas. Prosecutors say he is still the prime suspect, but they just don't have enough evidence to go to trial. We spoke to the private investigator about this curveball in the case.
And all Clint wanted was the opportunity for a jury of West Texans to decide his guilt. And 2 months before he was supposed to go finally face the man that he is accusing of committing this crime, it was stolen from him.
KCBD's investigative reporter Shaylee Sanders learned more about a critical piece of evidence prosecutors say they are missing. And we'll have this story for you tonight on KCBD News Channel 11 at 10.
The friend never replied. That was the last outgoing communication from that phone on December 27th. At 2:56, Atkins placed a call. It connected to a tower between Big Spring and Colorado City. 1 minute later, Hailey's phone received a call connecting to a tower in Colorado City, suggesting she was still alive at 2:57 that afternoon. Atkins said he arrived home before 3, found Hailey watching television, and that she told him she was going to her father's house and then to spend the night with her friend Mary Beth. He said she walked out on foot shortly after. He said that was the last time he saw her. Court documents reference a separate witness who placed Atkins alone at the home at approximately 5 in the afternoon. That created the prosecution's central theory, a 2-hour window between 3 and 5 in which Atkins was the only person present in that house. At around 4, David returned home to find the door locked. He entered through a window and found Atkins standing in the hallway. He later described Atkins' expression in a signed legal document. Still fixed, the look of someone caught before they could recover. That evening, Atkins picked Billie Jean up from work. They stopped at 2 ATMs. She withdrew $140. She told investigators it was for groceries. The investigators confirmed it was used to purchase narcotics. When they arrived home, Billie Jean asked about Hailey. Atkins gave her the same story. She called Clint. Hailey had not come. She contacted Mary Beth's family. Hailey was never expected there. Nothing was missing from Hailey's room. No bag, no clothing, no overnight items. A missing persons report was filed on December 28th, nearly 36 hours after she was last seen. Investigators had one timeline, one source, and not a single piece of independent evidence to support it. Colorado City mobilized almost immediately. Volunteers, flyers, search teams on foot and by helicopter. Approximately a dozen agencies coordinated to cover around 30 square miles of the surrounding area. The case was initially classified as a runaway. That classification was changed to a missing child case relatively quickly, but the initial label drew immediate backlash from the Dunn family and community. People who knew Hailey said without hesitation she had no reason to leave. Colorado City Police requested a statewide Amber Alert 3 times. The state refused each request. Police Chief John Bivens explained publicly, the state required evidence of a confirmed abduction, a suspect description, a vehicle, or a known direction of travel. None existed. Without those criteria, the alert system would not activate. City Manager Peter Kampfer expressed frustration publicly, saying he would like to see the criteria broadened. State Trooper Sparky Dean offered a direct response to anyone still calling it a runaway case. It's always been a criminal investigation.
13 years ago, KTAB's Tyler Henderson now speaking with a private investigator about the impact Atkins.
Clint's now had 2 heart attacks since Hailey's death. He's been through a nightmare and is still going through a nightmare.
Surveillance showed nothing. Every room was checked. Clint Dunn searched relentlessly. Dumpsters, alleys, streets, all hours, barely sleeping. Billie Jean handed out flyers and spoke to media, but said she could not search wooded or open fields because those searches felt like looking for a body. Atkins did not participate in any search effort at any point. No flyers, no search teams, nothing. On New Year's Eve, 4 days after the missing persons report, Billie Jean and Atkins hosted a gathering at the Chestnut Street house. Clint stood across the road and watched. He said later he could not understand how anyone could celebrate the new year with his daughter still missing. On January 4, 2011, the Texas Rangers and FBI officially joined the investigation. Over 100 billboards went up across Texas. Nancy Grace covered the case nationally and interviewed Billie Jean on air.
An arrest was made in the case. The twists and turns seemed to be over. But on Monday, a new twist spun the Hailey Dunn case into a spiral when a man arrested for Hailey's murder was released from jail. 13-year-old Colorado City cheerleader Shawn Adkins, Hailey's mother's live-in boyfriend, was arrested by the Texas Rangers. According to his arrest affidavit, authorities believe he struck Dunn in the head with a blunt object and intentionally tampered with her corpse. Atkins was indicted for murder by a grand jury and awaited his trial. And after spending 2 years behind bars, Atkins walked out of prison as a free man. Dunn's private investigator said the prosecutor dropped the charges at the request of the FBI. She said the case was dismissed without prejudice. This means that the state can refile the charges against Atkins at a later date. Documents obtained by Newswest 9 reveal why Atkins was dismissed. The documents explain that further investigation is needed in order to prove the elements of the offenses beyond a reasonable doubt. The prosecution still views Atkins as the primary suspect. However, additional work must be done before the case can proceed to the jury trial. The documents explain how this is a complex circumstantial case. Several leads and potential evidence were collected and worked with for over a decade. This includes soil, cell records, and even a polygraph test not mentioned in the documents. One of the pieces of evidence include a soil analysis conducted by a soil expert. Work boots of Atkins were obtained with a high degree of chemical similarity with soil samples collected from the remains site. The soil samples were sent to an FBI crime lab, where the forensic scientists determined that the soil sample from the boot did not match the soil samples near Dunn's remains. While preparing for the trial, the state of Texas met with the FBI and learned that the testing method used is not a testing methodology sanctioned by the forensic science community for soil analysis. The FBI stands by their original testing and doesn't believe that the testing should be relied on in a criminal trial. When Dunn's body was found in 2013, a forensic anthropologist observed blunt force injuries to her skull and determined the injuries to be inflicted at or near the time of death. This would have likely resulted in significant bleeding. While multiple searches of the house were conducted by law enforcement, there wasn't any forensic testing done in the house in the immediate aftermath of Hailey's disappearance in 2010. Multiple searches of the car, as well as the location of Dunn's remains, were conducted by law enforcement. As a result of the searches, some evidence were collected that were never forensically tested. Before this case proceeds to trial, that evidence should be thoroughly tested to determine if it has any value. Another major piece of evidence was the cell records and cell tower records of Hailey and Adkins. After analysis of these records, on December 27, 2010, Dunn sent a text at 2:16 p.m. and 2:27 p.m. At the same time, Adkins' cell connected to a cell tower in Big Spring, Texas at 1:53 p.m. and 2:40 p.m. Atkins also took a call at 2:56 p.m., which connected to a cell tower along I-20 east of Big Spring, but west of Colorado City. A minute later, an incoming call to Dunn's cell phone connected to the cell tower in Colorado City. These facts show that Dunn might have been alive before 2:57 p.m. on December 27th. There were also issues with the timeline. The day before, on December 26th, Hailey's brother spent the night with two friends, returning home on December 27th at about 5 p.m. When he got there, according to the document, he talked to Adkins, and Hailey wasn't there. At 6 p.m., Adkins left and picked up Hailey's mother from work in Snyder, Texas. Atkins wasn't alone again until the following morning. Putting all this together, the documents say that if Hailey was alive when Adkins arrived at home, he would have been alone at Hailey for at most about 2 hours from about 3 p.m. to about 5 p.m. This would mean Adkins would have had to kill her, clean up any blood and other incriminating evidence in the home, and hide her body in a relatively short amount of time. While not impossible, it brings more challenges given the prior issues. In the conclusion section of the documents, it states that there is no direct eyewitness to Dunn's murder, nor any known current forensic science evidence directly linking Adkins to the murder. Due to all these factors, the current state of the evidence is not sufficient for the prosecution to proceed to trial. The prosecution believes that additional investigation is needed. Although Adkins was dismissed without prejudice by Mitchell County, prosecution still considers Adkins their leading suspect. And maybe with this additional investigation,
Hailey's case was on national television, and Nancy Grace seemed to be a little hard on you. What was that like, hearing her question Billy like that?
I heard about it. I wasn't there when Billy was getting interviewed by her. I was talking to the Texas Rangers, but I heard about it, and it's frustrating, you know, what she said about me, but it really doesn't bother me because, you know, my main focus is just Hailey, because we just want her to come home safe.
Absolutely. And, I mean, It was brought to attention that you were the last person that saw her alive. What did you see that day when you walked through the door?
Like I said, she was just in the living room watching TV. Nothing out of the normal.
I see. And when she walked out the door, was it just business as usual? What was happening during the last few minutes when you saw her?
She just told me, you know, Shawn, I'm going to go by my dad's, and then I'm going to stay the night with my friend Mary Beth. Please tell my mom. You know, just like every ordinary day, you know, because she comes and goes like that quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, she's 13 years old. And, I mean, does it hurt to think people would point fingers at you, the person who cares about her?
Yeah, it hurts. It does.
Describe to me the relationship between you and Hailey.
It's really good relationship, and you know, I love her with all my heart, and I believe she loves me with all her heart, and we get along just fine.
I see. Is there anything else you want people to know about you and your relationship with the family at all? Because it seems like a lot of people are buzzing on the internet about it.
Yeah, as far as me, Hailey, and Billy and David, you know, we all get along just fine. And I would never do nothing to that little girl. I love her with all my heart. And I just wish for her a safe return.
I see. And to the people who are pointing fingers at you, what do you have to say to them?
No, they're entitled to their opinion.